Hi, Mark here from the Tangent Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast. And or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to The Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, are my fabulous co-hosts, Henno and Brian. Hey, guys.
Hey.
And we have a special guest today, Michael Leal. He is from a podcast, Who the What Now? Am I getting that correct?
That is correct. Who the What Now?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Welcome, Michael. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, he's also the supreme overlord of the Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
El Jefe, if you would.
Yes.
Grand Poobah.
Yep.
That too.
And the starter of Moon Wars, if anyone listens to Salty Language.
Yeah, too.
The instigator of the whole thing.
I was trying to incite the Moon Wars to drive up ratings
Yep.
for the podcast. You know what? I did not expect somebody to win, so I guess kudos to you, Salty Language guys, for decimating the graphic novice boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we haven't seen him since.
It's just unfortunate we had to completely ruin their podcast, by going on it also.
Completely.
Yeah.
like, would you have actually stopped if you knew the end result was that we would never hear them podcast again?
Yeah, probably.
Brian considers.
I mean, we do like to win.
Moon Wars.
No.
And you do podcasts with the Minister of Space Violence.
It's true, I do.
It's a little weird to back off.
Yeah, right? It just sets a bad thing.
There are no real winners in Moon Wars.
Yeah, that's true.
This is true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's, yeah.
So kind of everybody in on things who may not know what Danger Entertainment is or who the what now. So, Michael, could you give us a little background for us?
The Who the What Now, what started it all, was basically our warm-up podcast. I started a podcast just because I wanted to talk about movies and pop culture things, and I didn't really have anybody to talk to about that stuff that wanted to listen to me. And I wanted to engage on like conversations on the internet and stuff, but I just, I wanted to put my 2 cents in, but I didn't want it to have the feedback of like people arguing with me. So I'm like, I should just do a podcast. And it was a way for me and my friends to get together and to hang out, an excuse. So we started a podcast called The Cue from Hell, and it was a movie review podcast with the idea that there was like sort of a skit around it where we worked for the devil, and we were previewing movies for the devil to see and rated them on a torture scale. And I really love doing that podcast a lot.
That's brilliant.
I like that.
We actually wrote all little scripts, and then we did the voice acting, and I did all these sound effects and stuff. But we were nervous about doing it, so I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to turn on the recorder and let's just bullshit for like an hour or whatever, and we'll warm up, and then we'll go into the actual show. Mm-hmm. And okay, and then we just bullshitted for a while, and then I just called it Who the What Now, and I just put it up on the internet, and it did so much better than the regular show that after about 8 episodes, we just switched to doing Who the What Now, because the other one was so much work and everything. Mm-hmm. And then at that time, we were drafted by the Musings of a Geek Network, sitting with Daft Pod and Salty Language, and that's how I met all these guys. And then I go, you know what? I should probably do some sort of synergy because with my writing, because I do a lot of comic book writing and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm naming the comic book company this, so why don't I just like put my podcast on the podcast network that's like this, and it'll all come together. And then I just grabbed my favorite podcasts from the network and I put them on there, which included Salty Language and Gotham Lights and Daft Pod and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Graphic Novice, may the rest in peace.
Rest in dust is more like it.
From that first person. You guys are veterans. Yeah.
Yep.
And then it sort of blew up, and I've just been managing ever since.
That's fabulous. I mean, you're a pretty ambitious guy.
Yeah, I can't help it sometimes. I get like little bouts of megalomania. Mm-hmm. One of these days I will conquer the world.
One podcast at a time, right?
Yep, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes, I see a path and I just have to like grab it, just kind of like, if I just poke this person, this will happen. If I just do that, and then like a couple of dominoes will fall and then it'll go in my favor. Mm-hmm. So
it's true. He knew Tony and I were prone to violence, so and bragging. Don't forget the bragging. He's like, how can I combine these things and get rid of Graphic Novice? No, I kid. Sorry, Jen.
That's all right. So, how long have you been in the podcasting world?
Wow. Let's see. Maybe about 4 years. 4 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, it seems.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it from our episode numbers, but it's been about 4 years.
The reason that we wanted to have you on, apart from the fact that you are pretty darn amazing with the whole podcasting and the Danger Entertainment and all the ambitious stuff that you've been doing.
And he threatened to throw us off the network already.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that true? But, hey. But no, actually,
there's a non-disclosure agreement we agreed to, so like,
right.
You want to keep that on the down low there.
Oh, sorry about that.
I don't want to threaten legal action.
Right.
But we wanted to have you on for our conversation today on depression, because rumor has it this is something that you've been working with for a while in your life.
Yeah. Unbeknownst to me. Yeah.
you know what? That's how usually it works.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is like I just thought maybe I would. You know what it was? I just thought I was a guy who didn't like things. Like I just don't like
Fair
anything.
enough,
Like,
yeah.
it's okay. Like I mean, it's all right. It's not great. You know, I don't. You know, this movie's okay, I guess, but you know,
Right.
doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do like things. It's just very few things. And when I like something, I really like it. I really, really dig it.
Sounds really
but
familiar, doesn't it,
things
Jen?
just like a flat line for me.
Yeah.
And it's just how I've always been. And I didn't think that was unusual, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've been bummed out before. And I just call it being bummed out. Like, yeah, I kind of feel bummed out. You know, I just don't really want to do anything right now or see anybody or talk to anybody or I just kind of want to just sit here in this dark room and watch TV for a while. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would go through things where like I would just not feel like talking to anybody, and I would just like not see anybody for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I would, for whatever reason, I'd feel better. Then I'd talk to everybody and I would be back, and like nobody even knew I was gone. And I didn't see anything wrong with that either. And until my son has been having some issues. He's been having issues since he was really little. But, you know, it's like my first kid and there's no other kids around. So I'm like, I don't really know that it's that unusual that he's like, he gets really upset all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to get upset that his toys wouldn't do things that they're not supposed to do. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, the cars don't stack that way, man. It's you can't like freak out because the cars don't stack a mile high. You know, they're not what they're supposed to do. But he would be beside himself, like enraged that they didn't do it. And I'm like, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's a sweet kid and everything. It's just he would just get really frustrated. I mean, like I bought him a tricycle. He never rode the tricycle because the first time he sat on it, he didn't immediately pedal off into the distance. Like he couldn't work it the first time, so he was pissed off, and then he threw it down and the tricycle.
That is totally like I've talked on here before about how if I look at something and I go, well, it can't be exactly the way I want, I'm done with it. Like I'm not even going to keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and it's like he just came out that way, man. And then and I was like, and he's always been that way. And then I got him a bike. I bought him a bike, like a full on cool cars bike. You know, he loved cars. And then with the training wheels on and stuff, he would not ride it. Like I had to like really back away and like hide in the bushes and watch him. And he would, you know, so I didn't have any influence on it. And then he would go on there and he'd start riding it. And then I tried to teach him how to ride it without the training wheels. Same thing. Total meltdown first time. Never wanted to ride the bike again.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, he's just a little wound up or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Mm. And then when he started going to school, like not just regular like kindergarten or something, when he had to actually go to like first grade, second grade, where it was really, we're doing math now, we're doing, multiplication and stuff now, he started really having meltdowns like every day, almost every day. There was good days and bad days, but with the homework. And it's not like I wasn't being hard on him or anything. I was just trying to help him with his homework. Mm-hmm. And spelling and stuff. And like he would keep forgetting things. Like you should probably know how to spell they now. I mean, or the. I mean, it's been a couple of years. You should probably know how to spell that now. And he would just forget, and he'd get really frustrated and cry and throw a bit of a tantrum. And but he's not normally like that. It was just when he was challenged anyway. Mm-hmm. And like, man, I was trying to think back. I'm like, was I like that? I'm like, you know what? I was kind of like that a little bit, so it's not that weird.
I was kind of like that too. You mentioned the bike thing. I didn't learn how to ride a bike until I was probably like 12 or 13. And because every time I got on it, I failed. And so finally I'm just like, enough. And I was done. I didn't care. The only reason I ended up learning
too, that you're not great, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, cause everybody else I knew could ride a bike. I couldn't, you know, and so I ended up riding because Tony taught me. And, you know,
That was a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, basically. Well, I mean, it sounds like it. The very first time I actually was able to ride a bike, I actually like scraped the side of my sister's car and peeled. My dad had just put pinstriping on there. Like they used to have it in a roll that they would put on the cars, and I peeled it right off.
You added your own pinstriping with the.
Yep. Luckily, you know, my dad was, you know, did auto body work, so he was able to, you know, fix it. But still. Yep.
Yeah, so we were having those issues, and it came to a point one day where like he got so upset. I'm like, okay, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this anymore. Okay, we're just done for today. And then he like went to his room and he just stayed in his room. And then when his mom came home, like after he went to bed and everything, his mom came home and I was like, I started getting teary eyed. I'm like, he has a problem. There's something wrong. Like we have to really take him to the doctor because this is not normal. Is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at first there was giving a lot of passes because I'm like, I was kind of like that. But the way I was when I was little was I would get really frustrated like he was, but I wouldn't show it because I didn't want anybody to see that I was weak.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So like I would go in my room and then I would go into a rage in my room and destroy all my stuff. I had this Batman standee from '89 Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It was a card cut out from like it was in the movie theater and I got it from the movie theater and I had it in my room. I picked up Batman and I threw him across the room and it tore his shoulder, but I couldn't let anybody know that I had done that because I can't let them know that I got mad. So I like put like a scarf around him and stuff like that and like I stylized it. Okay, and I rearranged my room like, okay, nobody knows that I broke all this stuff. So like the only difference is he doesn't. I knew to hide it. And he wears his heart on his sleeve. So if he still feels sad, you know he feels sad. If he feels happy, you know he feels happy. And then we got him some help. We went to go to the doctor. It took us a long time to get an appointment.
Yeah,
but,
unfortunately, it seems to be that way with a lot of people.
Yeah, there's just not enough providers for mental health services at all.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's shocking.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got him in there and they go, yeah, he has anxiety, depression, and it's looking like, and we're explaining all these things. Like, yeah, he probably has ADHD. And we're like, and the thing is, like, I was really kind of stubborn about this whole thing. Like, I didn't want to believe it. It's like, no, he's just a normal kid. Like, I did this stuff. It's not that big of a deal. Like, ADHD, like, and you're, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that even real, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're from that generation still where, you know, we were kind of brought up with, you know, as that was getting introduced, people are like, really? Like, no, that's just a kid being a kid, or they're hyper, as it was called when I was a kid, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, suck it up, you know? Suck it up. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was in my house. It's like, you know what? If you're sick, you still go to work. If you break your toe, you still got to walk, man. You still got to go to school. You still got to do this.
Yeah, my dad always used to tell me, you know, you might as well go to school because you're going to feel sick here or there, so you might as well go there and learn. So, I mean, he wasn't like mean about it. If I did truly feel, most of the time, I think he was doing it because he knew a lot of times I was looking back. Right. It was anxiety, you know, or something at the time because I didn't realize how anxious I was as a kid until much later. You know, right? So I think it was just his way of trying to give me the foot in the butt to get me to go to school. You know.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was. Like, so I'll explain. So we took him. He probably has all this stuff. I'm like, I'm not sure. I do not want to give him medicine. I don't want him to turn into a zombie or something like that. Which is like, because I'm thinking about it how I was taught about it in the 80s. How like if you're on pills, you're just like a zoned out and stuff, and you're not. And there was a fear that like you wouldn't be who you are.
Yeah.
Like it would take your personality away. You wouldn't be you, or something like that. So I'm like, I was really apprehensive about it. But then I watched a few documentaries on it, and they kind of eased my mind. I'm like, okay, well, we'll try it. And then we went very small doses, and almost immediately there was a difference. There was definitely a difference. We had a lot of trial and error. There was like one medicine that worked kind of okay, but didn't quite do it. There was another medicine that really didn't work very well at all. Like did the opposite. So we had to get him off that. Then there was another medicine that worked better than the first medicine, but he never ate any food. So
oh, geez. Yeah, that's the sad part about, the medicine is that it can, like you said, it can take, I think I'm on my 4th antidepressant. So, and I went through kind of the same thing. The first one made me into a zombie. I quit that one. The second one I was on gave me, ideations of suicide and bad dreams. And then the third one, I think I was allergic to, like I just broke out in hives, so finally I found one that seems to be working pretty well for me.
Yeah, I'm currently on my 3rd, and it seems to be working pretty well. The first one, forget what happened with the first one. The first one, made me, it made me really anxious. Like it made me agitated.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is not what should be happening.
No.
And then the second one, it didn't seem to be doing anything. If anything, like it didn't even give me the little bit of happiness that the other one gave me. So it was just making me worse. And this one actually works pretty well. I feel pretty good. I feel like complimenting people a lot. I don't know why. Like, hey, you're doing a really good job, buddy. I just wanted to say that. But the thing, I'm still me. I still get I'm still, annoyed by movies that I don't like and stuff like that. I'm still
right.
But it's just I'm not that angry about it.
That's actually one of the main things I've really liked about being on them is that I've noticed my temper is more tolerable now. Like I can control it. Whereas, before that, I mean, man, when I would go off, I was just, I didn't destroy stuff. I was never that type, but I would just unleash like obscenities and
See, I'm a crier. So whenever I would get frustrated, cause I'm currently on a mixture. I'm on 2 different, antidepressants,
me too,
because of bipolar. So, but with my big thing is it would always lead to tears. And being a girl, it's more acceptable than a guy that cries a lot, but it's still very unacceptable in a workplace. So that was really where I started to reach out, is when I started getting to that point where I can't control this. And when I got frustrated or angry, I break into tears, and that just can't happen. And it was very interesting because I kind of did the same thing you did with your son, which is when for the first diagnosis, I'm like, no.
I remember when you came home from that diagnosis and you were like, can you believe the doctor thinks I'm bipolar? And I was like, yes.
I want to say something I can't say because about a person that I know. There's a person I know that's very close to me that I can't say because she'll be upset. But the doctor, she goes, hey, I'm bipolar. I'm like, oh yeah, everything makes sense now.
Right?
Everything makes sense now.
Yep.
And then a year later, she's like, you know what? Turns out I'm not bipolar. I'm like, really? And what the fuck's your problem?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a lot of times it takes somebody to tell you for it to click.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with my son. So like he told me, he's like, I'm like, dude, I had a real hard with him. I'm like, do you feel like you need help? Do you feel like you need a little extra? And he's like, yes. He begged me. He's like, yes, please.
Oh, wow.
Please do.
Wow.
Like, okay, he's asking. If he's asking, then it must be.
Wow.
And so like, he's so much better now. It's crazy. He still has his days, believe me.
Sure.
Today was not great, but
but that's going to happen. Yeah.
But that happens with anybody. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is, the goal of these things is to just make it to where every day isn't like this. That if you have those occasional days, that's okay. It's going to happen, and you deal with them. But, you're not dealing with it every day as badly.
Right. I mean, you could be on antidepressants and then lose your job and your dog dies and stuff like that. You're going to be bummed out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
And I think the great sign of a great doctor is like with my doctor gave me 6 weeks to digest it before we even talked about medicine. She's like,
Right.
this is what how I feel. This is what I think is best for you. But I want you to go home. I want you to keep a journal. I want you to talk to your family and friends. I want you to do all of this research because before I put you on medicine, I need you to be on the same page I am. Otherwise, you're not going to take the medicine, and it's just not going to work. So you have to be in agreement with me that you feel that this is the best path. You know, and kind of like with your doctor, the kind of debating, it's getting that conversation going and getting everybody on the same page is agreeing to what the best course of action is. That's truly the best way to get the help.
Yeah. That's how it should work, because you're supposed to be working with the doctor towards your the healthcare goals. It's not necessarily supposed to just be walk in, the doctor goes, you're doing this. You're supposed to be on board because there is an element of you have to do your part in it,
Right.
So, yeah.
So what happened with me and what got me in thinking that maybe I had a situation, because like I recognize a lot of myself and my son. I was like, okay, well, I seem fine. I'm not on the same level or whatever. And then we would have been taken he went to a doctor for his medications, and then another doctor, like a therapist,
Right,
to talk through things. So we'd sit there with the therapist, and like the third or fourth time we went there, she's like, okay, well, Gideon seems to be doing really well. What's your problem? like what's up with you? I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, you look so good. like, I don't know, I'm fine, And then she's like, tell me about yourself a little bit. And I was telling her, I was like, okay, yeah. You really, I think you need to like maybe see somebody.
Wow.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? Cause I work nights, right now, at my night job. And, sometimes I don't get any sleep, and I had deprioritized sleep. I'm like, well, all this other stuff has to get done at home. And you know what? I have to go pick up the kids, and you know what? I need to edit this podcast for some reason.
Yeah, that's more important than sleep, right?
And we started a YouTube channel. We did start a YouTube channel with the kids. And I was filming that, and I was editing that. And so like, well, I could function on 4 hours a day,
Wow.
And then on the weekends, like, I'll just catch up. And then I started not catching up.
Really quick, I did the exact same thing. So if you see me laughing as you're telling your story, that's why, is because you sound just like me in so many of these things you're saying. Yeah. Because I used to do that too.
Yeah, apparently that's crazy. She's like, oh, no, honey. You need, she's like, stop what you're doing right now. And looking at you in the eyes, you need at least 6 hours of sleep a day. Okay, prioritize the sleep. You need 6 hours of sleep a day for at least a couple of weeks to start feeling normal again.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then after you do that, we're going to see how your mood is, and then maybe you should see somebody. And then so I did that, and I did feel a lot better.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason that we stopped doing the podcast for that whole year, was because like I can't keep up on everything, and my work was all of a sudden increased. At work, my boss changed. There was a different boss, and he was a hard ass for no apparent reason whatsoever. And so it was a thing where like you're constantly running all night. Then I come home and I do all the stuff during the day. Then I sleep for like 4 hours, and I get up and I do it all again. And then so I changed that, but I was still kind of like and I would characterize it as a depression. It was sort of like I just started checking out. Where I kind of like, I just don't care, what they ask me what I want for dinner. I'm like, I don't, whatever, just whatever you want. Like, you want to go, we were supposed to have dinner with these people. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, whatever, okay. But what do you want? Like, where do you want to go? I'm like, I really don't care. Just whatever you want. And like, and that's one thing my wife cannot stand that. So,
yeah. And
then a couple of bad things happened where like, okay, I'm starting to hate my job now. And, I had a big vacation planned for us, to go to Disneyland and stuff. And then that didn't work out. It turned out that we had this huge energy bill. So like it was thousands of dollars.
Oh my.
Because they changed, if you go over a certain amount, it doubles.
Whoa.
The rates double. And it was like the hottest summer in like a decade. So like we were just running it because we had lived in apartments before and it wasn't a big deal.
Mhm.
We live in a big house with high ceilings and stuff
Oh,
now.
yeah.
So like, okay, well, there's all the vacation money's gone, and then that sucks. And then there was a car accident, so the back of the brand new car is screwed up. So and it was just like all these things, and then I was just like, this fucking sucks. Like I feel miserable,
Mhm.
and it wasn't even like feeling miserable. It's feeling nothing.
Yes.
And that's why I felt like I wasn't depressed.
Right.
Because I wasn't. I always thought of being depressed as being crying in the corner,
Yep.
curled up in a little ball,
Yep.
around like your little like candlelight, just
Yeah.
whimpering or something. But it's not. It's also not wanting to engage in the world.
Yes.
And
It's opting out.
Mhm.
It's
acting out. And also I started developing a really nice anger management problem. And like when I would get mad when I was a kid or whatever, I would hide it from people. I'm really mad at you. I'm just going to leave now. Or I'm really mad. I'm just going to go into this room over here and you're not going to see me for.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
For
There we go.
people that are on me all the time. it became really difficult. So
Yes.
I started raising my voice way more than I should have been raising it. I started snapping at people. I started like, in the movies and stuff when somebody gets mad and they flip over their desk. I did that in my room, my own desk. That's
Wow.
my stuff on there.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'm like, and it was just because there's so much buildup, and it's not just one thing. It's like 100 little things that built up to this point, and I'm like, fuck this, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Like, just why can't anybody just leave me alone? Like, and then and I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I have a problem. And then another thing that really did it for me is I'm on social media all the time, managing these networks and stuff. And a couple of comedians put little things out for like I think it was mental health awareness or whatever.
Yeah.
And Will Wheaton started posting about his depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading his tweets, and he's like, "These are signs of depression, and this is what I'm doing." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this sounds like me."
Right.
But I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I'm like, I don't know.
Mhm.
And then Andy Richter also did it. Conan's sidekick, for those who don't know. And he was like basically dressing down this lady for telling him that depression was a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fuck you, lady.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you depression is not a choice. I'm on these medications. I've always been this way. I get shitty.
Yeah.
And I withdrawn. And then
Yeah, I don't understand when people say that to somebody, because it's like, do you not think that rather than take all these medicines and struggle with all this stuff, like if you could just go, I'm not depressed, and just not be depressed, why wouldn't you just do that? Like,
that was the point he's making. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that happened, and I started like opening my eyes and oh my god, like I thought it was crying in the corner, but it's not. It's like it's withdrawing, and comedians often have depression. They like comedy because it takes their mind off of being depressed.
Yep. Well, and it's
Robin
also
Williams
said one of the
killed
best
himself.
ways. Oh, sorry. What was that? Go ahead.
I said Robin Williams killed himself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he was fighting depression all of his life.
Mhm.
One of the funniest comedians to ever have lived, right? So like he had cars, he lived in San Francisco, he had lots of money.
Yep.
Anthony Bourdain, he had a charmed life. There was no reason that he would have to kill himself, right?
Yep.
He had adventures. This dude had adventures. He went around the world eating delicious foods in all the best places with all the best people. He had like a fun time growing up. He drank and partied and like was a 4-star chef and like all this crazy stuff. And he still offed himself. It's like, it's not what happens to you in life. It's how you react to what happens to you in life.
Yeah.
And if your brain has a shitty exchange rate, you're not doing so well. So I go, okay, you know what? I'll see somebody. And it took me 6 months to get an appointment with somebody.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
I get running around from the insurance. Oh no, you have to talk to these people.
Mhm.
Okay, and I talk to those people. Well, we don't have any openings, so you have to talk to these people. Oh, we don't have any openings. You should talk to those people. Oh, they have openings now. Okay, I'll go back to them. Nope. And then I just finally just started going in the phone book and just this person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you know what? I just did their little questionnaire that the therapist gave to me, and she very understanding and these therapists can pretty much size you up pretty quickly.
Yep.
So it's not a whole lot of like shyster sort of like quack sort of doctoring here. It's like they've seen this before,
Mm-hmm.
and they could size you up pretty quick.
Isn't it
And,
funny
so
how
I-
that works? Like in our minds, we're like, oh, it's just me. Everybody else is different, kind of a thing. You go in there and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen like 1 million of you today.
Exactly. I keep trying to explain myself to her. Like, no, I get it. It's just
Yeah.
like I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, do you feel like this and then this and this? I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah. I got it.
How'd you know? Yeah.
So, questions, comments? Yeah.
One thing
The ghost.
I loved that, and that is actually the reason why I wanted to have you on was because of the comment you made about how, you thought depression was just crying in a corner. And I think a lot of people have that mentality about it, and it isn't, like you said, it's that indifference that you're
Right.
just like, I don't care. Like, you just go along with things. You don't, you're not assertive anymore. You just, or even if you are assertive, it's like you said with the like food, like, hey, where do you want to eat? I don't care. I don't know how many times I've been like, I don't know, just pick a place and I'll figure something out. Like, I've probably said that phrase so many times, and it's for that reason. It's like, I just don't want to make that decision because I really don't care, and, that was one of the things I loved when I finally got on an antidepressant was I actually started to feel again. And good or bad, I was like, I'll take this over the zombie effect. Cause with the zombie or the first medicine I was on, I felt like a zombie, but I didn't feel sad. But when I was talking with my therapist about it, she was like, this is not the goal. She's like, the goal is not for you to feel like a zombie, so I was like, oh, cause I honestly, right. I was like you, I kind of just assumed because of things we had seen and read from, the years gone by that was what was going on. And it's not anymore. There's a lot of people who are on medicine that are still very functional and are still able to get things done, even though they're fighting this every day.
That's the one thing too. It's like I didn't think. Oh, let's talk. I didn't think that I had it because I could get things done. There are times when I don't think I have ADHD because I wrote this comic, but then I remembered. Oh, wait a second! It took me like 3 months to write that comic, and it was grueling. Like I was like white knuckling through that first time that I sat down to try to write something on my own. I was white knuckling. It was physically painful for me to sit down and look at the screen and type words and then format those words and then proofread it. Like it was painful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much better at it now. And then you look back on it, I was like, why have you know what? I don't think I ever read a book in school, to be honest. I think I skim it really fast and I read the back and I'd make up a book report out of thin air.
Right.
I would get an A on it. That's where the creative writing comes in.
Yep.
But then I never did homework. I nobody made me. They would ask me about it every once in a while, and I'd bluff my way through it. So when the adult ADHD is the only difference is that you figured workarounds and like how to get out of doing work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're not forced to do it.
Yep.
Has people that maybe don't know exactly what you're going through, have they noticed, like people, coworkers and stuff, maybe you haven't opened with them and necessarily told them what's going on, but have they noticed a difference in you since you've gone?
With my coworkers, I try not to share too much because I still feel like, even though I don't feel like it's something to be ashamed of or anything like that, if I tell them, they're going to treat me differently now.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, oh, what's his problem? So like, oh, he's called in sick again. Like, what's his situation?
Right.
Like, I don't want them talking about me. I don't want being passed over for promotion because they think I'm unstable or something like that.
Right.
That's the stigma. And until that sort of stuff changes in general, like it's still like I feel like I'm undercover or something.
Yeah.
But like creatively, there's so many people in the comic book field that are dealing with the same stuff. And just in creative fields altogether. And that's one of the things, the ADHD and stuff, you tend to be very creative and very imaginative. And so like we sort of gravitate towards, comedy or writing or things like that, art, drawing and painting and stuff. And my family definitely has noticed a difference. Michelle's having much more fun with me now.
Yeah, I bet.
She was getting really, really tired of it. She our favorite thing to do before was to watch movies together, and it became a thing where like I would never want to watch anything. Like, hey, this is our favorite show. Why don't you want to watch this with me? This is our favorite movie. Let's watch it. I'm like, I don't know. You can watch it if you want. Then I'll do whatever.
Right.
And she was getting so sick of it. It was really putting a strain on our relationship. It got really dark there,
Sure. Well, yeah, it makes sense because, like we were saying, it's you're no longer really participating in, what's going on, and yeah, that's the kind of stuff that even though it's weird because on one hand, like you said, you were able to do the comic and you do this and that, but then at the same time, it's like something that you would normally do that you want to do, like is before this kind of situation got worse and worse. It's like, that's something you would have wanted to do with her. And it's like, now you don't. And that's why, we talk on here all the time. Like we've all been told, like once something is negatively affecting your life, it's time to get help, because clearly you didn't want that to keep going down that path, but I don't know how many people I know that their, depression or anxiety or whatever it is ends up being realistically it becomes the reason they end their relationship, even though it may not be the cause on the surface, but when you kind of trace it back, it's like, it kind of started there. So I'm glad I'm definitely glad you were able to catch it, when you did and for your son too. Have you noticed any drop off in creativity since being on medicine?
No. I will say instead of thinking of 12 things at a time, I'm thinking of 6 things at a time. So
okay. That's not a bad thing. Yeah.
So that's good. I feel like right now with my medicine, I think it's, I feel like the depression's mostly under control.
Yeah.
I think the last couple of days I haven't been feeling that great, but it's other stuff,
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like one thing after another. The toilet broke again. The dryer's still broken. I have to fix that. I have to figure out time to fix that. That sort of stuff,
Sure.
And I do feel like maybe I need a little bit more tweak on the ADHD stuff because what's funny though, I'm getting more work done for sure. 100%. I'm like, oh man, I feel like I didn't get anything done tonight. I had all this extra time today and I didn't get anything done. And I go, wait a second. All I did today was update the website, post all the links to every podcast on the network, write this, write the synopsis for this thing. That's all I did today. I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's a lot of shit.
There you go.
That's I wouldn't have done any of that shit.
Yep. But there's your difference is recognizing that, cause before, I would do the same thing. I would go through life and do a bunch of stuff and then I'd be like, I didn't do that. I just focus on the one thing or things I didn't do. And, yeah. And over the years, Jen's been great about no, you did this, and now I see that stuff better. I'm still working on that, but it made a difference before I just couldn't see that stuff, So I had the same fear as you, as far as the creativity drop off. I was like, well, I like my sense of humor. I like the creativity that I've had for most of my life. It's like, I don't want to lose those things. And, and then finally, I've talked on here before about it, but the online comic Penny Arcade, one of the guys that does that basically wrote a long thing about how he had all these, depression and and anxiety stuff, and he finally went and got treatment for it. And by the time he posted it, I think he had already been on medicine and therapy or whatever for like 3 or 4 months, and was like, yeah, I don't, he's like, I'm still the exact same person. I'm just able to function better.
Yes, exactly.
And once I read that was my, like you said with Andy Richter and Will Wheaton, that was my moment where, because Jen probably remembers it, because I remember telling her like, hey, that was my aha moment. I knew I was depressed. Like I never questioned that, but it was finally I was like, oh, well, maybe this stuff isn't as the help isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be open to accepting help and accepting the fact that, you know what, I'm not perfect. I'm not like, I can't do everything on my own. Sometimes you have to accept help.
Yep.
Just like I teach my 4-year-old daughter all the time. Sometimes there's certain stuff you can't do. You cannot drive this car. You're 4 years old. You cannot make our dinner. You're 4 years old.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need help.
Yep. Yep. That's true. Yep. That's why I always said, like, to me, it's like, you walk up to a board with a screw in it or something, and you're like, well, all I have is a ruler or something. It's like, it might work, but it's not the ideal tool for the job, so.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And it is quite nice that, once you start feeling that, because it is such a relief, to kind of feel some of that weight lifted off of you. I don't know if you've hit that point yet or not, but.
You know what? When I got the diagnosis and it was confirmed, and I go, oh my God, this explains everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm not stupid. I'm not lazy.
Yep.
Okay. I try hard to do this stuff. And this is like, confirmation that I did that. I always knew that I could do stuff, but for whatever reason, I just never got things done.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, like, I've been fighting with like one hand tied behind my back this whole time.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it.
Yep.
So I think, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I not beat all these guys back with one hand?
Yeah.
Well, that's the danger of the disorders and the diseases, is that in the mental issues, they all feed off of the darkness of being the isolation, of bringing you to the place where you're all alone. That every single one of them brings you to that alone place, and you don't realize how alone you really are until you start getting the help. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, I've been handicapping myself this entire time.
Yeah.
You don't see it, you don't know it, and you just don't feel that there's any hope until you get that help. And all of a sudden it's just the lights get turned on.
Yeah. It was amazing to me. Basically, I mean, it ended up being the equivalent of when you're a little kid and you get hurt and your mom hugs you and says it's going to be okay. Like, that was kind of the equivalent of it for me. Was I like Jen was just saying, it's like I was not real high on the hope scale. And after that, I was kind of like, you know what? This gives me a direction. This gives me a feeling of, hey, these people are going to help me. And that it made such a difference. And like you said, I felt a big weight lifted off of me. And I felt it more as the years have gone on, as I've worked on changing my thinking and different stuff too. But, it's why I push, for people to at least, go to the doctor, get the estimate, find out what's going on, because it can make such a difference in how you feel.
Right. Just take that leap. Just make the phone call.
Yeah.
The people on the other end of the phone want to help you.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're eager to help you. They'll sign you up for an appointment.
Yep.
You come in, you talk to them. They'll try to do their best to help you.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I really had a hard time doing, is just going like, I don't want to, talk to them about stuff. But they're there to help.
Yeah.
They want you to call.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to tell some stranger all my business. And it's like, oh, actually, now that I've been telling a stranger my business for a couple years now, I'm like, I've got an appointment Tuesday. Right? Yeah. I've got an appointment this coming Tuesday, and I'm looking at the weather going, and then it's like, I really want to go to therapy though, because it feels so good to just dump and then, I can move on. So it's interesting. Yep. It's just interesting where I'm there now, whereas when I first was going, I was excited about it, but I also was still very much, I don't want to, like you said, I'm a keep it to myself person. I didn't want to go, well, I didn't want to go, telling people, because the people I had told before basically ignored it. So I was used to that response, Meanwhile, right. As soon as I sat down and talked with my therapist, she was just like, okay, well, here's what I think you should work on, and I was like, oh my God, like,
there's things that we can work on.
Yeah.
Be better.
Like what?
There's something to be said, and maybe Heno could talk to this too, is like, there's something said to be able to talk to somebody who doesn't have a personal interest in your, in your illness. Like sometimes, you might talk to somebody, but you're talking to the wrong person. Like I might talk to my mom about this, but my mom has a personal interest in maybe making sure that it seems like my childhood was better than it was.
Yes. Yep.
Or maybe I talk to a sibling and they don't really want to deal with that. So they're just kind of like, oh, you're probably fine.
Like, no, I'm really not.
Another person outside of your circle that like goes, oh no, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Or no, that's not good.
Right.
Or maybe you should do something like this. And that's probably what happens in like AA meetings and stuff like that too. You just talk to somebody else.
Yeah, the one thing that I loved listening to your last podcast where you talked about it, because I just kept having all these moments where I could relate, yet the situation is so different, but there's a similarity in the solution, in that, like, for me, it was, all like everything you talked about like the tools, as an adult, we establish tools that we just justify our behaviors. And by, and like for me, I related with, well, I'm accomplishing all these things, so I don't have a problem.
Right.
And accomplishments, yet on the inside, I knew there's, there's something wrong, but you don't really know that there's something wrong, because you don't know any other way of being. And the one thing that is similar between mental health issues and alcoholism is, you can take some medicine that physiologically starts making a change, and that gives you a little bit of an inkling of, oh, well, life can be different, and inspires you to look for something deeper. And the same thing happens with alcoholism, but you're just removing something. But it's still, you're affecting a physiological change. And you're creating some moments of clarity that then allow you to get into the root of the problem, which is it's an inside job. And and the whole idea of, for me, I'm glad I did go to a therapist, because I had all my mentors in the program, and 12-step programs, that could help me with the things that we face, whatever it is. But there were angles that I wasn't quite ready to approach as in a 12-step program that my therapist would then, hone in on instantly. And that was the main thing is I needed someone to call BS on stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a fact. And now I can call it on myself.
Yeah.
But it really took a while to get to that point. But it's just really listening to you talk about, just the things you do, taking on too much, not completing this, blah, 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 that, frustration, dark periods, all this stuff. And I'm just like, wow, it's like, it still blows me away that from miles and miles and miles away, I can connect with somebody and their experiences, because I went through something similar.
Yeah.
And
totally.
And it for me, it's like, it makes this world a little, it brings me closer. That's why I love that we do this either through social media and podcasts, is because it allows me to get out of myself and see that I'm not alone. And it makes me way more sympathetic to people who are struggling, because I know people all around this country now that have gone through the same things that I have and have the same struggles. And so I can now listen to somebody, and if I don't have the experience, I can at least be empathetic to somebody that struggles, even though I may not have the exact same struggle that they had. And to me, ultimately, I love the idea that something that was a liability in my life can then become one of my greatest assets. And that's what I hear, I heard you sharing about was that idea of like, wow, all these things that I thought were holding me back, but now, I can put them into the right, everything becomes the right size for the situation, which that's the miracle for me.
Right. And like you said, it's like, you think all these things are preventing you from doing things, but it's really not. It's you preventing you from doing a lot of these things. And, obviously, like you said, you needed to remove alcohol to see that your part in it. And just like me being on these medicines and then having a therapist go, hey, when you do this, this is what happens. And then, again, you have those aha moments. And I've talked about it with you plenty of times, I know, about how I've come out of therapy and been like, dude, and I've been going long enough now that, sorry, Jen, I'm almost done here. I've been going long enough now that, like you said, Henno, not only do I call my own BS, but my therapist is calling my BS and predictively calling my BS. Like different times I've been there where I'll say something and she'll be like, well, it sounds like you're doing this again. And I'll be like, oh my God, you're right. And I totally didn't see it coming, but she did because she's not mired in it like I am.
Well, my favorite sayings, and we've talked about it before, is perception is 9/10 of a situation. If you can't change the situation, you change your perception. So it's a lot about, yes, you have to change situations when you come across them that aren't right, but how you perceive things, it just makes all the difference in the world. And sometimes that's what you need. You need to call yourself out on it. You need someone else to call you out on it. And just to help keep you on that straight and narrow and walk in the right path for you.
Yeah, and the one thing that I hope that you keep doing, Michael, is being very open with it, because so much of the opportunities that I've had to make positive changes, I've been sober now for a bunch of days, and I try to practice these, I use these tools that I've been given and these principles that have been shown to me in my life, but I still slip. And it's because I've been open and I continue to be open that it allows my friends on this podcast to call me on it when I am slipping a little bit, or if I just say something that, somebody just catches a little bit off. And that doesn't happen if I stop opening up about what's going on with me on a daily basis. And I'm not going to go out and have a drink tomorrow. It's not going to happen. I'm also very unlikely to go do some really bad behavior at work tomorrow either. These are things I've learned to control. However, there are lots of other little subtle things that I can do where that it's great to be accountable to other people. And it doesn't happen unless I stay open about what's going on inside my head. And especially with mental illness, and you've brought it up already. These people that on all outside appearances seemed like to have the life of all of our dreams. And yet it got dark. They couldn't ask for help. And it's this, I think, whether it's addiction, alcoholism, any mental health issues, I will always say this, our disease is sitting in the other room, just shooting steroids up right now, just waiting for that moment that we let, we let our disease back in the door, and it's going to come back in, and it's going to come back in raging stronger than we ever experienced it.
Yeah, like that I told you the one time, Henno, and I've said it on here a few times about how those of us that are fighting these things, we have to win every day. And the things we fight against only have to win once.
That's it.
And that's it. You look at, again, going to the Robin Williams example, it's like his demon won once. And even if he had won every other day, in the end, it doesn't matter, because the one win for the illness or whatever is what ends up, ending his life. So it's a lot of people don't get how hard this is to deal with sometimes.
Right. It's hard for people to understand how dark it can get and how hopeless. It's funny. Yeah. I have to remind myself that I've done good things before.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I have not done anything. It's such a fucking waste. Like, why? And then I go, wait, no. Like, and then I'll be reminded of something like, no, you did this.
Yeah.
You accomplished this.
Yep.
You accomplished that. You did all of these things that not a normal person could possibly do. But like, I don't remember that. I only remember the times that I failed.
Yep, totally. Well, even like with Tony and I, we had a comic shop open for 2 years, you know, and then we closed it. And in my head afterward, I was constantly like, I'm a failure. And it's like,
everybody knows.
Yeah. And it's like, but realistically, it's like, how many businesses make it 2 years? You know, we're actually in a pretty good crop there that we actually succeeded, you know. Maybe not long term or whatever, but it wasn't a complete failure, you know?
How many people can say that they lived their dream?
Yeah.
Your dream was to own a comic shop. You lived it.
Yep.
You did what you set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's charity.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people are able to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
The first step.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a part of that, what Hannah was saying about sharing, I'm still struggling with the sharing part. Like I was uncomfortable coming on the podcast.
Well, that's why when I listened to your episode where you talked about it, and the first thing that popped in my head was like, oh, I don't think we've really talked about how the not being sad is, you know, just because you're not sad doesn't mean you don't have depression, you know? And I was like, this would be great to, you know, and then after I sent you the email and I'm like, you know, he just posted that he's doing this. And I was like, he may not be comfortable because I forget sometimes that I'm so like, I'll talk to anybody about this now. I used to be very guarded with it, but now I'm pretty much, I've taken the opposite approach because I got tired of being told basically to be quiet and keep it to myself. So now I'll tell anybody, and I don't care if they want to hear it or not.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm pretty open. Obviously, I'm on a podcast about it, and so I am pretty open in my family and my personal life. But I understand completely, Michael, about the whole and work. I kind of do a blended take to it. I tell my employer because with bipolar it is protected, and so on my application, it took me a while to get here, but I finally got to the point where on my application I mark myself as having a protected disability.
Right.
You know, and it took a while to get there, but I do that now. I don't necessarily tell people I work with unless it's someone that I've really made a connection with, or I feel that, you know, the podcast would be beneficial for them. I'll kind of introduce them to that. But for the most part, I kind of keep it on the down low because you said that stigma is still out there and it can be held against you very easily when it comes to decisions about employment, promotion, you know, anything like that. And it's
funny you bring that up because I just filled out a new application for a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And there was I came to that part in the application process where it asks you if you have any of these disabilities. And right there, it says depression right there. And I agonized about, like, should I click this? This is going to ruin me. This is like, should I click this? Should I not click this? I don't know. Like,
it is. It's really tough.
Passed over before. I don't want to be passed over.
Yeah.
So I didn't click it. And that's on me. You know, I was not prepared to do it yet.
Yeah.
And
really quick, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like,
right.
I want anyone listening to know, you know, like, you don't have to do that. You know, that's if you feel comfortable at some point, awesome. If you don't, that's fine too, you know.
Right. And what you were saying about, like, sharing, there's a lost episode of the podcast, that I might have mentioned on the podcast, where maybe about 6 months ago, it was not this past November, but the one before it, we recorded. And it was just Michelle and I, and it was in that dark time. And I was just like, started spilling my guts on this podcast. I'm like, this is going on. Mm-hmm. I feel so worried about my son. I'm worried about us. I hate everything. Like, and it was like I was crying. I started crying.
Yeah.
My wife had to get up to put the baby back to sleep. She just gets up and starts wandering around. So she put her back to sleep, and I just kept talking while she was gone. I was like, found myself just like tearing up and tears rolling down my face. I'm like, okay, I can't post this. and since then I've tried to edit it a couple of times and I can't get through it. But yeah, it's so I wasn't 100% ready then, and I felt this last time I wasn't thinking that I was going to share it.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, I feel like I need to share it. I feel like, I mean, I don't really want to, but I feel like I have to share it. And I want people to know, because somebody out there is dealing with the same thing.
Yep.
Somebody like, or they know somebody who's dealing with the same thing, and I don't want them to treat them poorly for it or not.
Yeah.
You know, I want to help understand that, and not just for, you know, the people actually experiencing it, but for other people to understand and help.
Yes.
People need help. You know?
Yeah, that was my thing, was I have to be open. If I the only way I'm going to have an opportunity to help somebody, and yes, of course I can go to all sorts of meetings and meet people that are struggling. But to me, one of the greatest things in the world is when I'm open about my alcoholism or whatever it is, and I have somebody sitting next to me that is going through an experience either themselves or with a family member, and I can be a resource for them. And that is one of the greatest feelings. And the only way I can do that is to be open. You know, just like you said, Michael, it's like the only way I can be helpful to people is if I let people know. And it does come with some risks.
Yeah.
But so far, I actually haven't had a negative experience.
Well, you know, something else too is that I found is that there's, I still have kind of a wall that's like, okay, stuff from this point closer is still for people who are actually parts of my life. You know, like if certain thoughts and different stuff or things I've experienced, I kind of keep to myself, but most of it I put out there, you know, but you know, I found that barrier makes me comfortable with sharing, you know, because it's like, well, I don't, you know, this is not something people really need to know, but the broad sweeping ideas are the stuff that I really want to put out there. But then, you know, I fight with myself over it because the nuance is actually what gets most people to finally go for help, because there's that one little something and they're like, wow, that's me. And, you know, so, I'll say this though, Michael, the most nervous I've ever been for a podcast was when Tony and I sat down to record the 47th episode of Salty Language. And it's the one where it's called Just Keep Calling. And we talk about my mental health issues. You can tell listening to it that he learns a lot about me in that episode. And I learned how close I was to losing my best friend. And, you know, and I've never been more nervous about not just doing a podcast, but also posting one, because I was like, this is totally not on brand for us, you know? Whereas now, you know, over the last year, we talk about this stuff openly. He's doing it a little bit more now, you know. It's so weird because that was never our friendship, but it's great that it's evolved, and it all started with me opening up, because by me opening up, he's been like, hey, you know, you can do this. And he's used me as a resource of, what did you do here? What did you do? You know, and it's awesome that now I get to help him, you know. Meanwhile, for a while there, I couldn't even help myself, you know.
Go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say.
I was just
my mind wandered while you were talking. I was like, oh, yeah. And I started thinking about it.
Yeah, I do it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a common problem on podcasts. We have so much to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just going to say, I mean, it's been an awesome conversation, and it just, yet again, it's one of those moments that we can't impress enough about to our audience, that it's hard to be open and to let the world in to stuff that's so dark and so private. But I mean, it's so worth it. It just is
Yeah. And there's like you said, Michael, there's so many people out there that have dedicated their life to helping people like us. And, you know, and they're just waiting. Like they can't, you know, they don't come knocking on the door and going, "Are you depressed?" And then go to the next door, you know. So at some point, you know, but we all have to find it in our time. And I know Heno identifies with that. We talked about how that lines up with like alcoholism is you still have to have that point where you're finally like, okay, I need help. You know, like you know, and I'm glad you found that. I'm glad that, you know, by other people sharing, that helped you identify what was going on too, you know, and also that allowed you to, you know, and that you got help for your son. That's, you know, I love the fact that people are seeking help now. You know, it's becoming, the stigma is still there and it's pretty strong, but I keep hearing stories of people going, you know, I heard this and now I'm doing this. And it's like, yes, like this is great. You know, I want people to get help. It's not that I'm trying to preach medicine or anything on anybody, but it's, you know, realistically, I almost think anyone can benefit from therapy. So that is a different story, but, you know, but like I said, just, you know, anyone listening, go get the estimate if you're feeling as though things are not right. Like Michael did, you know, eventually he knew things weren't right and sought help, and look at him now. He's a dynamo.
Look at this specimen.
Yep.
On that note, are we good, guys?
Yeah,
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think so.
just a bunch of spiritual giants.
Giants. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, you know what time it is. If you'd like to continue the conversation with any of us, all of us, you know what to do. So you can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. You can reach the show at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. crazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email. And Michael, plug away, dude. We want to hear about how can we reach you?
Okay, well, you can listen to the podcast, Who the What Now. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. Who the What Now? It's on everything. It's on Stitcher. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio. Just type it in, search for it. You'll find it. You can follow me on Twitter. I have my personal one, but I also have the one for the show, which is at WTWN_podcast. Who the What Now? And on Facebook, we have a Facebook group now that we started. To sort of talk about the stuff we talk about on the show with actual people that are listeners. It's called Who the What Now, Strange Pop Culture Podcast. It's on Facebook, so you can check that out too.
Awesome. And Heno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at IdaHeno, on Facebook, Heno Heiter. You can always send me a message on either location. And I know what time it is, Jen. It's time to get ill. Come on.
And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
You can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. And you can find me at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, Salty Language, at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com, which has all the links to all of our social media and ways to find the show and blah, blah, blah. And a link to Michael's network, Danger Entertainment, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net.
That's right. .com was taken.
Yeah. Jerks. It's like Tony and I still waiting to try to get the salty language. Never going to happen. No, it's still the same. It's still the same guy. Like, he hasn't used his account or he's had a suspended account for years, but they won't clear the name out. So, anyway.
That's what happens to us.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, whatever. But, I also wanted to mention before we go here, one more time that the 30th of January is, Bell Let's Talk Day. And I just want to remind everybody to, if you tweet anything on that day, basically, unless it's like horribly inappropriate, put hashtag Bell Let's Talk in it. and they're giving like 5 cents to like mental health causes and whatnot for every tweet like that, for every I think it's like Facebook video view, Snapchat filter. I can't remember what else, but anyway, there'll be a link in the show notes if you want to go check it all out for their website. But, you know, again, the goal every year is just to see how much money people on the internet can make a big corporation donate. So, and, we've said it various times on the show before here. But, you know, if you do need help, please reach out. I know it's incredibly hard. But if you're feeling as though your life's being negatively affected by something, no matter what it is, if it's, an addiction or a mental illness, whatever it happens to be, please seek help. There are tons of people out there willing to help you. There's programs out there if money's a problem. You just have to ask for it, basically, and if you don't know where to find things, if you talk to doctor's offices or wherever, they can usually put you in touch with, people who can help. And then, reach out to people, let them know you care, let them know you love them, that you appreciate them. And realistically, I hadn't thought about it before, but Heno's point about being open about this stuff kind of fits in that whole thing too. And that if you know somebody who's going through something like this, talk to them about it, or talk to people about your situation. And you just never know who it might help. That's the crazy part is I've had so many people now reach out to me on Twitter and ask me questions, because of stuff from this podcast or whatever, or tell me that, their story. And I love when people do that. So thank you to those who have. And, we've given you all of our links here so you can hit us up at any point if you want to reach out to any of us or ask questions or whatever. Again, I will remind everybody we're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals.
Absolutely.
But, do that. And then also, just try to be kind to one another as well as to yourself.
Remember, everybody, talking saves lives, even your own.